let me also share my screen. Okay, first of all, I want to apologize once more. I spoke to Julius. I seem to have several issues that have come up on 2 consecutive Tuesdays. My apologies for that. As for today, you know, we are in the rainy season. We are here on a farm, and we had just plucked leaf and we're taking to the factory. That the tire went out. These people didn't have a spare, and I had to go and repair the tire and bring it to the tractor so that they could deliver leaf. So it happened at the worst possible timing. So my apologies for that. Now, Julius had suggested that maybe we could move it to Thursday. My major concern with moving the class is that we have links that have been created for specific time. If we move it, we may find at that particular time another lecture is going on, which may affect other schedules. So that's my main worry. Unless we can find out that time is free. But for now, I think let's...
But we are here now, Doctor.
Yeah, we are here. So let us begin. So today, I wanted us to look at teaching models and technology. And specifically here, we are going to see how we can, the core of this topic area is to see how we can actually design our technology to suit what we are teaching. One of the key points that we should always note is that technology doesn't drive us, it's us that drive technology. And essentially we pick and select what is possible, what best gives us support. And that's the key point that we would like to emphasize in this particular topic. So let us begin. We began last week by having an introduction to education technology. So today we're going to look at the teaching models and technology choice. In the following week, we shall look at communication in teaching and learning. So first of all, is just understand some of the basic principles that we must have. One of the first and most important things we want to do is to enhance our ability to give instruction in a classroom. We want to carry out more effective teaching and learning. That's the primary objective. So whatever we do, it is in mind that we want to have effective teaching and learning. So what we want to do is to build an approach, is to have for us as teachers, as lecturers, to have a certain approach to how we are teaching, whether we're going to use technology or not. We must always have that thing in mind that I want to do this thing to the best of my ability, to do this effectively, that I as a teacher, I deliver my content effectively and my students are learning effectively, to have the best possible experience for both the teacher and the learner. So for us to be able to do that, we first consider several questions. And on the whole, the first and most important question is, who are my students? So the first question we ask is, who are my students? Do these have special needs? Do my students have special needs that need to be addressed? And for here, I usually like to give an example of a personal experience I had when I had, I think I was probably 2 years into teaching at undergraduate level at Uganda Matters University main campus. And I was teaching an IT course, programming, teaching a programming language to IT students. And we had been informed as a department that we were receiving our first blind student. Now I went to class, I didn't bother to find out, so I began to teach. I had out my slides and I was teaching and I was saying things like, look here, see here, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the lecture, somebody called me aside, a girl, and she points me to another girl, and this girl introduces herself and says, I am Joan and I'm blind. So you can imagine as a teacher, I immediately, my mind began to think about, oh, like everything I've been saying, I actually wasn't prepared for this student at all. So I think that was, I think that was one of my first wake-up calls to teaching, the need to, the special need to look at students and what their special needs are. If we look at now, your particular case here, we are now learning, teaching and learning online. And like right now, our course is live. But one of us is not with us. And she probably has something urgent that is necessary, something that has kept her from coming to this class. So then what do we do? Well, one, we record the lecture. We record the lecture to ensure that she can at least catch up. We create platforms like WhatsApp and provide contacts that in case she has any questions, because she at this moment has a special need. She has certain specific tasks that she must carry out. So those are special needs. So that would be the first question to ask: who are my students? What are they like? What are their special needs? What is it that may hinder them from receiving effective instruction? What are the things that are available to support them to have effective instruction? Second question you would ask is, what do you want your students to demonstrate, for them to demonstrate that they have actually picked something? What should students be able to demonstrate? Is it independent thinking? Is it their own mindset, to come up with something on their own? Would you like them to be able to remember certain principles, certain things, a must that students must know? What is it that you want your students to demonstrate? What do you need? The third question is, what do you need to have an effective instructional environment? What do you need to get everything ready? What strategies would you need to get ready for the lesson? And so on and so forth. So all of these are basically allowing you to come up with a plan which you can execute effectively and introduce effective instruction in your teaching and learning. Just some of the simple basic questions. Now, any question before I go further?
No.
No, we are okay?
Very clear.
Okay, let's move to the next phase. Now, these are phases that you probably already know. They're quite generic. They're not necessarily tied to technology. We shall come to something more specific when we come to technology. We have what we call the DPA phases. These allow us to design our lessons. Now, your students of, I think, curriculum development. So this is something that is obviously at the heart of your course or your program. So you already know this. What we want to do is to focus our, whatever it is, whatever lesson we are trying to design, is to understand the principles behind it and integrate and adopt technology within. So these three phases of designing your lesson start with the design phase, the planning phase, and the action phase. So the design phase is the first step when you begin to articulate what it is you want to do. And here you may draw up a template just to show what you envision your class to be. Do you want this to be a highly interactive class? Would you like this to be a thought-provoking class? What do you want it to be? And then come up with a template. Do I want discussion? Do I want people to first stop and listen, really listen? Do I want people to first give me their opinion and their thoughts on a particular subject matter? And then integrate that with my core objectives. What do I want to do? You start with that template. Then you come up with a plan. So in here, the teacher will break down the design into daily lesson plans to know that this will be the introduction, and in the introduction, maybe this is when I start my thought-provoking process. And then the second phase, maybe I introduce some content, and then we have a discussion, and so on and so forth, where you break it down into something that you can manage. Then the third phase is the act phase. So in this one, you actually begin to develop your content to suit the different daily lesson plans. Are you going to develop videos? Are you going to have a platform? Will you have a to-do list, and so on and so forth? Now, this I'm sure you already know from the basic principles of teaching and learning. But we then now have to integrate classroom technology. As you come up with your design, you begin to ask yourself, where can I begin to input my technology? And this technology can be anything. Maybe ICT, it could be the old technology that we have in the classroom, the blackboard, the manila papers, the mind mapping, whatever it is, you can use any of those. But as you begin to select your classroom, you begin at this point to select your classroom technology. As you begin to select your classroom technology, you ask yourself, what are the teacher's needs? What are the students' needs? And what are the learning principles? Now here, I'd like to introduce you to a framework that was developed specifically to help with designing classroom technology. This particular article I have attached, it is there on Moodle, and you can find it. It gives more explanation on TPAC. That is the Technology, Pedagogical, and Content Knowledge Framework. This framework essentially gives you a generic guiding tool on how you can design your classroom technology. As you can see from this slide, this framework comes with 3 domains: the technology domain that you see here, the content domain, and pedagogical domain. Now, what is each of these domains? What is their purpose? In the technology domain, one of the first things we take note of is to try and understand what is our technology knowledge. How much technology do we know? Are we aware of as teachers? And how much technology do our students? How much experience do they have with technology? I'll give you an example. I have with me here my young nieces and nephews. They range in ages. One is for example, in nursery. One is in primary school, and 2 are in secondary school. One is just joining secondary school, and they've been having online classes. And one of the things, when you see these young people on the phones, they're on WhatsApp, they are on Instagram, you may assume that they are technology savvy, that they know how to use all these online technologies. But when you actually see them beginning to use the teaching and learning technologies, that's when you realize that the ICT level literacy skills are actually limited. The social media skills, they are quite good at them, but when you come to use the same technologies for teaching and learning, it's a different matter. They may not be as technology savvy as we assume. So one is to consider your students, what technologies do they know, and what is their capacity to pick up new technologies. So that is one. Then also yourself as the teachers, as the teacher, what is your knowledge on technology? The second domain is the content domain. So the content domain, you're looking at the content you're going to deliver. And you're also looking at the differing levels of content areas and how this content should be delivered or should be attained by the student. Remember the lesson plans we were talking about. This is something like, this is where you would have ascertained what content is it that I'm going to teach. Sorry, let me just go back. Then we come to the third domain, which is pedagogical, which I'm sure you already know. These are the methods and processes of how you're going to deliver the content. Now, each of these domains are quite separate, but when you look at the intersecting areas, now this is when you begin to have guidelines on how to select the appropriate technology. So take the example, if you look at this particular domain that intersects between technology and content, this domain is asking for us to look to try and understand the relationship between the technology and the content. Yeah, the relationship between the two. How can I use my knowledge, the level of technology that I have, what is available to me to deliver the content that needs to be delivered? Or how can I use that technology to enhance the content that I need to deliver? How can these two support one another? That would be the question. When we look at the pedagogical side and the intersection with technology, the same thing comes in. Well, how does technology support the teaching and learning process? Or what new teaching and learning process can be introduced by us using technology? What new method can we produce? Then when we look at this intersection between the pedagogical domain and the content domain, we also come to the same point. What new content can we come up with using new pedagogical methods? What new areas can we encounter using this new, the new methods of teaching and learning, and so on and so forth? Any questions so far on what I have discussed? Or any point that you may want to bring out something?
When you were talking about...
Yes, please.
Doctor, when you were talking about the DPA, Design, Plan, and Act, at first, I just pictured myself in the planning process because you explained that under effective planning.
Yes.
For teaching.
Yes.
However, when you reached at the act, you listed, I saw a list of some like materials.
Yes.
So I thought at the act phase, it is the real teaching and learning.
Now, in the act phase, this is when you actually the act phase, because at the point of teaching, that's when you're carrying out delivery. But in the act phase, this is when you're bringing the content together. You're putting all the materials that you're going to need, you're bringing them together before you actually begin to teach. Yeah, so
so
imagine,
it is all under planning.
yes.
It's all still planning.
Yeah, no, not really, because in the act phase, take an example. At this point, I'm delivering my content, but this content, I put it together before this lecture. That was the act phase. So that by the time I come to you, I already have the lecture slides ready. Yeah. In a few minutes, in just a minute, we are going to use another platform to carry out some brainstorming exercise. I prepared that platform beforehand. So that was my act phase, knowing specifically that I was going to use that platform, and I prepared it beforehand. If I had prepared a video earlier, I would have also put it together, and then I put it on the platform for you to view or anything like that. I already collected the articles I needed, and I have uploaded those. So you realize the materials, the platform I'm going to use for brainstorming exercise we're going to have in about a minute, that was prepared beforehand. So that was the act phase.
But doctor, can we plan without action?
Can we plan?
Can we plan, like when we are planning? Can we plan outside action? Maybe I'm so into the planning that I'm used to of making the lesson plans, because when I'm making, it is already an action.
I think maybe what should have been added would be the delivery phase, when you're actually carrying out delivery of content or carrying out delivering the lesson, the point when the lesson is actually being delivered.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's just have a brief brainstorming exercise. Considering what we've just had here, I just want to pose a few questions to you. Then I'm going to quickly move you to another platform where we can have this brainstorming session, which is called Padlet. So here I want us to just first of all ask ourselves questions from our own experience. What technologies do we know? Socially, what technologies do we know? How could we use this in the classroom, both physical and virtual? What differing content areas can you think of? Content areas that you may want to deliver to your class. For example, content areas that need discussion, content areas that may need some thought process, especially from the students, to be able to come up with something concrete. So what content areas can you think of in any particular subject? And then we can think of some pedagogical knowledge, the methods and processes. How can we re-engineer some of these processes in light of technology and new content areas? Yeah, and new content areas. So bearing that in mind, I want us to go to something called Padlet. I'm just going to stop sharing screen. And in the chat, I'm going to send you a link. Sorry, I sent this to you. Are we
supposed to respond there?
Let me just, if you can go to that link, if you can click on that link. I've sent it to everyone.
You did?
Yes, go to the chat room on Zoom. Have you all managed to get there?
Yes, but there's nothing there.
What do you see?
In the
I
Zoom
see
group chat.
padlet.com S Nyakaisiki.
When you click on it, what do you get? Or when you put it in your browser, what do you get?
Nothing.
Should I put it in the browser?
Just try to put it, open it up in a browser and I see. Let me see if I've gotten that link. I'll try and get another one. Okay, I think let me give you another link. Try that one.
No, this is a link. Yeah, something else.
Yeah. Can you click on this, the new link I've sent?
Yes, it is opening.
Okay.
I'm seeing a beautiful flower.
Yes. This is a platform called Padlet, and it's free. You can use it for discussions in your classroom and to, let's say, just to get students to participate in a particular topic. So here I've posted something on technology knowledge, or TK, and I could post a new question. I can post a new question saying, what technologies do you know?
It's a rose flower.
If I ask you, you can respond it. Let me share my screen. Now, for you to respond, do you see the plus sign? You can click on that.
Yes.
Yes.
Then just respond to the technologies that you know.
Okay. I hope I'm not speaking.
Upload what?
On plus, when I clicked on it, it was taking me as if I'm going to search.
If you click, you see that, are you seeing my screen? Eh?
No, I'm just seeing a flower.
Do you see my screen? Do you see me moving my mouse?
No.
You don't see it?
Not at all.
Hey.
We are just on an island.
And I'm sharing my screen. You're seeing the flower? You don't see me move
No,
my
We are seeing a pink flower.
Maybe I first change. I'm going to put a different background color.
Oh, I'm seeing solid colors.
So you see, you see my mouse also moving? If I
Yes.
put blue, if I put blue, is it less distracting?
Yes, you put blue, purple. Yes.
Yeah, I can put. I can try purple and we see. Yeah. So I'm thinking maybe this may be less distracting than the flower. So do you see me moving my mouse? Do you see the
Yes.
mouse moving? So if I click on the plus, you see I'm moving the mouse
Yes.
to the plus. So if I click on it,
Yes. Yes.
and then I say the technologies that I know,
Yes.
I'm going
That's
to
what you
write,
were saying.
I'm going to
Yes.
write Sheba, and I'm going to say, what technologies do I know? I'm going to say I know Gmail. I'm going to say I know Google Classroom.
Zoom.
I'm going to say I know Zoom or Meet. And then I click on Publish.
Yes.
So here Sheba has
Publish.
said this is what she knows. Yeah. And let me see if I
Okay.
can connect.
Yes.
Yeah, I connect it to that one.
Ah,
So Josephine, you can put something. Caroline, Julius, you can all put something. Technologies that you know.
you have put what we know. WhatsApp.
Yes, you can put anything. Anything that you know.
What that
All
I'm
right,
seeing,
don't
what
tell us.
technologies do you know?
Where should we start?
Gmail, Google Classroom, Zoom, and Meet.
Yes, don't stop. You write it there.
Is that what you're meaning, Doctor?
Yes.
Julius, right. Doctor, where do we start? At plus.
They click on the
It's
plus.
connected.
After plus,
You click on plus, then you on subject, you can write your name, then write something here.
but how come that for me when I put plus, the subject doesn't come?
When you click on plus, add a post. Where is the cursor blinking for you? Maybe, can I stop
Now the
sharing?
plus has disappeared.
Can I stop sharing and you share your screen?
Yes.
Wow.
Technology.
Yamawe.
Okay, we can now see your screen.
No way. Yeah, Tabu said that.
That's a nice picture of you. Is that you?
Ah, to put them on again.
It's a very nice picture of you.
Even I don't know how to go back.
No, don't worry. Open your browser. Open your browser.
Open.
I'm seeing that at the bottom you have a minimized Firefox. If you can click on that. Yes, that one is, I think that's where. Or maybe you first go to Zoom and click on that link that I sent in the chat.
I am lost.
No, don't worry, don't worry.
Can you see mine?
Okay, okay.
I'm even sweating.
First stop sharing. First stop sharing.
I'm struggling to do that. I want to stop here.
Okay, move your cursor to the top and you'll see the panel coming up and you should be able to see something like stop. Now, when you want to share, when you say, when you click on, share screen, click on the very first screen that appears on the different options that Zoom gives you, the very first screen.
But now they gave me many things, including the documents I have. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. You click on the very first screen that you see, which is the one showing your Zoom, the Zoom window that you've opened. When you click on share screen, click on the very first screen.
okay, Caroline is sharing.
Let
Okay.
me stop. What's that? Have I done it right?
Yes.
Yes, that is good. Okay, Caroline.
So let me stop. Let me stop.
Yes, I think Caroline.
No, you're right.
Now, Caroline, click on the plus.
Yes.
You try submitting your answers. You try to write.
I try to write.
Yes, click on that.
Okay.
Hey.
And then
Banage, for you have succeeded.
And then
she writes whatever technology.
Stop
like that. And publish.
Yes.
Yay!
See, thank you, Caroline.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Can I stop sharing?
Yes, please. So Josephine, you've seen that?
I have seen.
Oh my God, where am I?
Julius, where are you?
So if I share my screen now, you can see that I have linked the 2 posts of Cindy. Now, if I also ask that, what do your students, what is their knowledge of technology? What do they know? So, for example, if it were me, I would say for Sheba, I would say my students, maybe Sheba's students. I'd say my students know Moodle. They have some knowledge of Moodle. You can even put some knowledge of Moodle, because I'm not sure how much knowledge you have. Some knowledge of Zoom. WhatsApp, Google Classroom, Gmail, keyboard, Google Meet, yeah, and then I publish it. So I'm going to link this to that. So you can also do the same. You can think of, oh, sorry, this is not what I don't want to connect with, disconnected. So I want this to connect to that one. Yeah. So you can also do the same. Think about what technologies your students know, they may be aware of. I might even go further and say Moodle, and then maybe discussion forums. I'll say even discussion forums. And you can also do the same. Just brainstorm on some technologies that your actual students may know. Any posts? Nothing yet? You can even think of when we're thinking about it, we may be thinking in terms of high tech, but even something as simple as SMS.
Are we able to write when you are also, you have already shared?
Yes.
And you will write it? Or
no, it will appear here. No new additions? Nothing?
We have them, but now we have to submit the problem.
Do the same thing. Just click on the plus. And then write whatever it is. It's just a brainstorming session.
Yeah, but my screen is not showing me that.
You
It
don't see
downloads forever.
It's not doing anything.
It is showing like it is about downloading.
Eh?
Yeah, just that circular circle blue one.
Can we share screen and we see what's happening? Julius, we're not hearing anything from you. This is Microsoft Edge. What about when you try to open with Firefox? If you try to open the same link using Firefox.
The problem is I had not copied
I
it.
don't know how to use Firefox.
I don't know now here where how
Okay.
to get the link.
Can you copy that link
Yeah,
that
we
is in
already
your
use
browser? Can you
Google
just select
Chrome.
it and copy it?
I don't know which.
Or you can go back to the chat room. That link is there. Just select it, copy it, and open Firefox.
And I copy directly.
Yes.
Imagine going and not returning. Please now.
Okay, first stop sharing screen. Eh?
And when you copy, where do you paste it?
Okay, so first I'm going to try and I'm going to minimize everything. And I first come to the chat room. Eh? So do you see the link here? I'm just going to select it. Do you see that?
No, we are seeing a beautiful photo.
Yeah.
We are seeing a beautiful family.
Do you see, but you have not
Is
seen the
that
chat
you?
room, eh?
Oh,
Yeah, me, I can see the chat room.
Okay, if I just copy that chat room, I come to Firefox. This is Firefox, eh? Somebody was saying this is Firefox. Do you see the link that I'm pointing to with my mouse? Eh? That is Firefox. If I open another tab and then I just copy and paste. I think Firefox may be a little bit faster than Edge. Yes.
Some of us don't even have it.
So because I already have it already opened in Firefox, so that is Firefox, maybe a little bit faster than Edge.
Some of us don't even have it.
You don't have it?
I don't.
Oh, sorry. But Josephine, you have it. You can try to open.
Yes.
Yeah.
We just have Edge. Microsoft Edge.
But you can get Firefox. It's a free and open source application. So you can try and download it in your own free time, or ask someone, any person, to help you download it and install it. It may be a bit faster. So essentially, the purpose of the brainstorming session is...
I'm there, Doctor. You wait and I publish.
Okay.
Publish, Josephine.
Then why have I written my answer?
Don't worry, we are waiting.
Publish.
Yeah.
It's there now. Yes, we have Josephine's. So we can connect Josephine's. Now you realize within this lecture, I've introduced you to a new technology, which is interactive, which can allow for you to have a brainstorming session with your students using this platform, and it is
Yes, Josephine gets a congratulations.
Give me a hug.
And Josephine has put television, video games, text messages, social media.
Yeah.
And for sure, these are all very good. They're all very good. Just a simple fact where you see something like video games, you know that these are even, gaming is even used by organizations, of course, in the Western world, to bring about efficiency for staff employees in some companies. So it is even something that can also be introduced in a classroom. If somebody finds maybe a game, there's a game, for example, my niece introduced me to, which looks at finding words, and that can improve spelling, just like the way people play this, I forget this game which looks at formulating words. I forget the name, but something like that. You can find
Scrabble.
Yes, Scrabble. So it's sort of in the same category, and it's a game, but you can introduce that to your students, maybe to improve on spelling and things like that. Social media is another. It has its evils and it has its good part. It's a technology like any technology. It's an object. It can be used for good or for bad. So even social media can be used for teaching and learning. Look at what churches.
How about Facebook?
Yeah, even Facebook. Those
And
are
today, now
yes.
they don't have option. They are using it.
Yes, people are using it. You see, even churches now are using social media. They're using Facebook. They're using YouTube for services, for mass, whatever it is. They're using it. It's now something that can be used, and so it can also be used teaching and learning. Since the students are already there, why not use it? Why not use the platform? It can be extremely good. So when you start,
Yeah, doctor, actually, YouTube Kids.
yes,
Yeah, YouTube Kids is good for teaching nursery class.
yes. So we see that we actually have technologies that are already being used, but now it is simply saying, let's use it for teaching and learning. Yeah, let's use it for teaching and learning. Now we can put another area, which is PK. I'm just going to put PK, which is pedagogical knowledge. And I've published it. I'm going to move it up here and just ask you, what PK methods and processes can integrate with the technologies you have listed. So I've posted that just to ask, can we brainstorm on that? What pedagogical methods and processes can be integrated with the technologies you have listed? If you can just list some of them that you know, I'm sure you know this much better than me, being that you're professional teachers. Can we think of anything?
Yes.
We could first discuss this verbally, then we put it on the platform, on the Padlet.
Yes. For me, when I think about the methods,
Yes.
through which we can incorporate with the technology, one of them is discussion.
Okay.
Discussion. As we have seen, we can exchange ideas through a chat. I see that during our Zoom lessons, sometimes you can post in the chat so that at the end of the day, even if the class is large, everybody gets a chance to write their views and even be able to see where they are similar in thinking with others who posted the same ideas.
Okay.
And even demonstration, it can be through a video which is presented. And as they watch, maybe someone is in that video is demonstrating something that they ought to learn, which you may not be able to demonstrate you personally as a teacher, or it could be a profession in that particular area, whereby learners will be able to understand it clearly. And even when teaching abstract ideas,
yes,
we can exploit the internet. All those videos are there, even in maybe geography and the formation of those things. Sometimes you can explain, but they are abstract.
Okay.
But those videos can bring out a clear image to the learner, which they may never forget.
Yeah.
So yeah, even when I think of maybe in the English lesson,
yes,
they can exploit by reading the stories,
yes,
or novels online.
yes.
Because there are so many free books there, but only that we don't know that they are there, or we don't know how to exploit.
Yes.
And sometimes these things we might know, yes, but now how many kids can access those things?
Yes.
Only that this COVID has somehow changed the perception that even now parents are free to give their phones to their kids now, because they are left with no option.
Yes, that is true.
But before COVID, they could not even allow them to touch it, because they feel like if they touch the phone, they will be exploited, or they will be spoiled.
Yes.
For me, I believe that everything can be bad, no matter anything can be bad. It depends on how you approach it.
That
It
is
can
true.
be good, it can be bad.
Yes, that is true.
So, yeah, I think those are that's what has come to my mind quickly in regards to some of the methods.
Yeah. And we see already I've posted some of your thoughts, and you can already see, I've already posted them on the platform, what you are discussing. But we can already see how, by just a brainstorming session, how we can use the different domains. Another question, which if you read through the articles that I have uploaded, another thing that comes out when the domains intersect is, should I say, well, how should I say, the new knowledge that comes out. For example, new methods of teaching may come out by simply bringing in technology. Take an example. How many teachers think of video games or to support teaching and learning? Yeah, like Josephine said, some of these things can be seen as being very bad, but a video game can also be very educational. For example, I told you about the game that my nieces and nephews introduced me to, which looks at, it gives it at different levels. It gives the player different letters and asks you to formulate actual words from those letters. So you realize that a student is learning how to spell. Yeah, a student is learning new words. Okay, we'll formulate a word and then maybe they don't know it and they go and try and find out about it. So something like a game like that would be very helpful, for example, in an English lesson for some students. And for students who are very much attached to video games, this may be something that that could help the student pick up spelling skills. And I'm sure there are many other games that have been created for educational purposes. But it could be one way to get students to interact, yeah, to pick up interest in certain content areas that in otherwise may be content areas that may not be interesting to a student. I remember one time I was taking a course unit. It was a certification course in ICT. It was called Cisco, and it was divided in semesters. And I remember the second semester, before we started it, all of us had been told it was very difficult. Whatever you do, you're going to fail, and so on and so forth. What made it interesting was the instructor for that particular semester. I remember what he did was to break down the mathematical elements into the simplest format. And I remember I passed that semester, that particular section, without failing any of my tests. So it's one area. It's one area where technology is one area which can help to introduce new methods and processes that that can help students pick interest in certain content areas that may be otherwise uninteresting, or maybe areas that students may fear. Yeah. So I would encourage you, please go ahead and read those articles that I've uploaded, specifically on the TPAC framework, and read it in depth. It will be quite helpful, and and help guide you on designing classroom technology. Okay, let me just stop sharing for now, and we go back to our lecture. Do we have any questions so far?
Maybe like on the last, how the technology can birth to give. I'm saying give birth to.
Yes.
Can lead to the introduction of new methodologies,
yes,
new strategies, different mindsets and way of learning and
yes,
thinking. Yes, so I had posted that. I've sent my, like, for example, it can boost self-study, self-learning, self-motivated
yes.
learning.
Okay.
And the learners end up learning many things on their own.
Yes.
Which maybe even they wouldn't have learned through the class or through the teacher.
Yes.
And also,
yes.
the strategy I see here, the new one, is learning in an interesting way, in a fun way. Like a child thinks he's playing. Like one day I was talking to Cindy, and she told me about the games that her children are playing, but at the end of the day, they are consolidating. So
yes.
the child is excited about this play, but for you, your intention is for them to keep learning, and they learn.
Yeah. And it kind of takes away that feeling of dread whenever we think of school and classroom and so on and so forth. But in the process, the person is actually learning. Thank you for that. So that was just a brainstorming session for us to have a little bit of in-depth looking at the TPAC framework. I would encourage you to please go ahead and look at the articles I've uploaded on Moodle. So let's look at just some of the teaching models, and we can later on see how they also integrate with technology, just slightly a bit more. So the first teaching model that we want to look at is the behavior model. So this is very much what has been adopted by e-learning technologies, allowing the student to be able to learn at their own pace. And normally it's done by solving problems, setting up problems that a student can basically work themselves through to solve that problem. So that is has been very much adopted by e-learning. Now, one of the things we must take note of when you come to the professionals and when they think about e-learning, it's not necessarily what most of us know. What most of us know is what is referred to as blended learning, where we mix physical and distance learning. But of course, now because of COVID, we have purely e-learning, where we're doing everything at a distance. We allow students to more or less learn at their own pace. We have something like this, a live lecture, which we record, and the student can, if you've missed the lecture, you can go back and download your lecture and you know, basically go through it yourself and pick up some content without necessarily following the live class. So this is what the e-learning platforms basically introduce. The second is the personal model. So this one allows direct communication between student and teacher, the teacher and the learner, one-on-one communication. So here you see things like email coming in, personal chats. For example, I may say, Josephine may at the end of this lecture may decide to send me a question, something like that. Last semester, I was teaching a class on research methods to ICT students. And because it is such a heavy topic, I'd get, at the end of the lecture, I'd get WhatsApp messages from students just to ask on a particular thing we discussed, which they may not have been able to discuss with all their classmates there. So that supports that direct interaction. Now you realize that you can mix and match the models. We don't have one size that fits all. So those are the first two models. The second last two are the social models. So this allows for group interaction. So for example, what we've just had on Padlet, that is a social model. We have used that to have a discussion. And you have also seen, Josephine gave the example of discussion forums. Then you have the information processing model. So the Padlet can also be an information processing model where you allow the student to process information and then using all channels that may be available to them. Maybe I may post you a question and then you go ahead and search on YouTube, you go to Google Scholar and so on and so forth to come up with a solution for a problem that I may have posted for you. Any questions so far? I'm seeing something being posted. How do we do parental control on classroom technology? So Cindy, that's a very important question. Now, depending on the platform that you're looking at, the first and most important thing that I would say is, first of all, it depends on the age group that you're dealing with. If you're dealing with a very young group, for example, nursery level, Josephine talked about YouTube for kids. If you have children that are going to use channels like YouTube, then I would suggest you something like YouTube for Kids, which specifically only allows the student, the pupil to only access content for children. That is one. Two, if they are using things like phones, yeah? If they are using things like phones, the parent should essentially supervise what they are seeing. But however, on the other hand, what I would warn is, especially for the teenagers, they will know how to hide certain information from you. That would be the key point. One of the key points that I learned, I listened one time to a priest saying that If your child must access things on the internet, make sure that the computer, let's say if you're using a computer, it's in a public area. For example, the student is using that computer in the sitting room where everyone can view and see what he or she is viewing. So that is one way of having parental control. The second way is that there are also technologies which help to sift, that is to stop certain content from arriving on your desk. For example, pornography and things like that. There are certain softwares that can block. If your child is accessing YouTube, YouTube also has the capacity to block adult content. So all those are things that are possible. Cindy, have I answered your question?
Yes, but which softwares are those, madam? Because we are dealing with adolescents.
Okay, now, like I said, YouTube has its own controls. For softwares, what I would advise is if you can go directly to these ICT people, just even an ICT shop, and ask for software, they should be able to give it to you. If you're let's say at a university or at your workplace, you have ICT people, they can help you get softwares that can block. So wherever you are, it's possible to get those softwares. But get an ICT person who will help you install it and make sure that it's not heavy on your computer. That's what I would say, but those ICT people would know, be it in Kampala, or if you have an ICT person at your workplace, at the school where you teach, those people should know and should be able to help you to block.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Do you have any questions on the teaching models or any thoughts?
What is the difference between the social model and the behavior?
The behavior.
Can social models be incorporated? Anyway, you've said that they can be used together.
Yes, they can be used together.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But
They
here I see like social is a subsection of behavior.
Yeah, but they can be used to mix and match. Imagine rather than have this lecture live, I pre-recorded it and then put it up in Moodle. Then I ask you to access it. And then I post a question, maybe for discussion, or ask you to produce something based on the video that I've uploaded. That would be behavior, because that would be something setting out to solve something. But the social element, this is where you would ask people to work together in a group. So the two can be combined. So for example, if I posted a video, then I gave you an assignment, then asked you to work in groups, to work in a collaborative environment. So that would be combining the two models. So it doesn't have to be that you can use only one. You can combine all of them to have what we call effective instruction. So in your designing part, as you're designing, you'd say, let me combine the two models so that I have effective instruction. If let's say Josephine saw my video and understood, but Cindy didn't understand, when you come together in a collaborative fashion, you'll be able to discuss even more. And let us say if I also included myself in the discussion, I would also be able to add more to the understanding. Yes, Julius is asking a question. How is programmed learning considered? Is it a method or teaching aid? Programmed learning. Julius, can you explain to me a bit further what programmed learning is?
It's a curriculum.
Yes.
It's a curriculum.
As if I read it somewhere as a type of curriculum.
Okay.
But let Julius tell us.
I'm not very familiar with it.
No, like I can give an example.
Mm-hmm.
in one school, you can have a program for those with special needs.
Okay.
And then what for those you consider, so there is some, still it is related to curriculum.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, so they can adjust the methods, the content, and it is a special program.
Okay. Would that
So
be like, for example, what was being proposed for students because of COVID? They were saying that when students go back, they consider what content to teach and how to summarize. Would that be an example? Like sort of scale down the content and only teach what is necessary or the most basic. Would that be an example of
Yes.
programmed learning?
I think it is something like that.
Okay.
And they have workbooks. They normally have workbooks that are already designed for each topic.
Okay. 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 I don't know if that's I don't think that's a method. I think that's probably strategy and method.
A system. It is a system.
It's a system. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Just
Is it a system of teaching and learning?
Yes, I think it's maybe we would call it a system of teaching and learning.
Okay.
Okay, just some tips on how to select technologies. You must know, first of all, how the program works and how it will facilitate teaching and learning. So that is where the PK domain of the framework comes in. That to know how the programs, to know how the programs or applications work. Then, yes, please.
That is where the problem comes in.
Probably first ask yourself, what do you know? That would be the first thing. If there are new programs, is there somebody who can train me, or can I train myself, or things like that? Those would be the questions you'd first ask yourselves. Teachers,
am I interested?
Yes, are you interested? Yeah. Here, you see the next point where I said teachers need to be aware of the different kinds of programs. What programs are available? So to take an example, we know PowerPoint. Yeah. You may not know Publisher, but these are, or you may not know Hyper Studio or Inspiration. But you can say, let me try and find out. Yeah. If I'm in the area of math, I may want to know what applications are. Yes, please.
When we publish on the portfolios, is that Publisher?
No, Publisher is a whole different application on its own. It's a whole different application. Yeah, it's part of the Microsoft package.
Blasters.
Do
we have English blasters, language blasters?
We can look for those. We can find out applications that support English learning. You can find, I'm sure if you went to Google and just did a search, I'm sure you will find, I'm sure you can find something.
There's one I saw called Pinterest.
Okay.
For English and literature teachers.
Yes.
Yes, it gives you a design for every topic and how to teach it easily.
Yes.
Oh.
So if you find that there's a lot, you find that if you just went to Google and did a search, you'll find so many applications, and some which are free. Many are free. For example, I remember when we were first introduced to Padlet, one of the professors had found another application similar to Padlet, but this one was paid for. But when we realized, Padlet can be used for free, then we said, why not use it? So you'll find those which are for free. You'll find those which, sorry, the tractor is just coming back from the factory, so it's making a bit of noise here. So you'll find that there are so many applications and programs that are available. So the teacher needs to develop a skill of evaluating software. You need to know what softwares are available. You need to try and learn how to use them and then see how usable they are for your content, for your students, and so on and so forth. The interest, I think Joseph Nizanu said the interest must be picked somewhere along the way. A couple of things that we need to think about. The teacher's competence in the use of technology is often problematic. Yeah. So Josephine was a little bit scared there. Most of that competence comes from fear. Somebody thinking, we are thinking, oh, I'm not an ICT person. There is no way I can use this thing. But everything is a process. You can start it. Everything takes step by step. Today we've been introduced to a new technology and we used it. I would encourage you, go and visit padlet.com, develop an account and see, just play around with it. It won't break, that is for sure, because you've tried it out. Just try it out and see. Search on Google for applications that may be available for your subject area. For example, English and literature, math, whatever it is. Just try and Google and find out. Students and teachers have unclear and often inconsistent expectations of technology use. So some people, again, may be really scared. Others may have a completely negative attitude. But the first, again, for me, the first step I would say is I would encourage you to use it. The more you use it, the better you get at it. And the more results, the more results you will get out of it. So just try it. Next important thing is that technology keeps changing. There's always new technologies. And be aware that
always better.
Yeah, there's always new technology and always better. And each new technology comes with new software and hardware specifications. So that is a key point to notice. Right now you're using Edge, Microsoft Edge. Before there was Explorer, now there's Microsoft Edge. So this is a new technology. I was seeing, I think on BBC, they are saying that a new Microsoft operating system has come up, which means those of us who are using Windows 10 must realize there's a new Windows coming up. And with time, Windows 10 will become obsolete. It will no longer be supported. So that's just one of the things we know. Yes, please.
How about Windows 2016?
We shall see. Let's see what's coming up.
Those people.
Now
they don't sleep.
Yeah,
they want us to buy new gadgets.
Exactly. They want you to keep buying new gadgets.
And yes, they said if you have a phone that is not powered by Android, you will not even be able to go on WhatsApp.
You're already seeing that. So things are constantly
and then
changing.
they just cut off WhatsApp. When they cut off social media, I felt like as if the world was ending.
Exactly.
Cindy, you are lucky for you. You don't have a phone. You are not aware. Everything was off.
No, that time I had a phone.
No, not during the elections.
There was
just
a period. Yes,
no problem.
There was an incident where social media went off. So I think it's for those who are social media addicts, it was a really dark point in their lives.
That's when I knew that I was an addict.
You realized
because
it then.
Of how I felt.
That's when you realized. Yeah, that's
Yeah, most of how I feel.
yes.
There is a way it simplifies, like you can talk to very people everywhere.
Mm,
Yeah, even make international calls
yeah.
easily.
Now also we realize when we rely on educational technologies, they also don't. They are not something that you can always rely on. I remember, I think last semester there was a time the ICT department really got several hits specifically because the provider for UMU kept getting technical issues. So people were trying to access Moodle, they were not accessing. That was the time people were doing exams online, and there were constant cuts over and over and over again. So the conditions are not always optimal. There was a time last semester when I was trying to teach, and that time MTN had issues, really real issues. I failed to connect on my phone, on my router, and it simply failed. So the conditions are also not optimal. Now, there may be people who may try to oversell educational technologies, then there are those who try to undersell it. But however, one of the most important things to understand is that this is
But
something,
generally, it is not reliable.
yeah, it's not reliable. It's on the whole, it's not reliable, but it can also come into support when a physical classroom has failed. For example, now in the time of COVID, teaching and learning has to continue, but we have all the unreliable factors coming in. The most important point to remember is that the teacher is key. Technology cannot take over the role of the teacher. Really, it cannot. Unless the teacher is the driving force of technology, teaching and learning won't take place. So essentially, it is to say that what we must understand, technology is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. We have to embrace it, but it is to, however, to remember that you're not going to get rid of the traditional classroom or the traditional teacher. It is simply there to enhance. Yeah, that's one of the things that you should understand. Is not we may not be able to go completely e-learning, but we can do blended learning where we combine the two. Do you have any question or any point to add?
It is just a reflection.
Yes, please.
Depending on the last submission you've said.
Yes.
When I look at some of the jobs I grew up admiring, most of them are being taken away by technology. Technology is going to make we white job seekers jobless.
Yes.
However, when it comes to teaching, like you've said, it came to enhance.
Yes.
It can never replace the physical presence of a teacher.
Yes.
In class, especially in those who are still young.
Mm-hmm.
I believe there are so many benefits from school setting because those kids are still growing.
Mm-hmm.
And they are still developing, and a school setting as it is with different aspects, they are needed. So I believe that the teaching job of a teacher may not likely be replaced by, however much those videos could be made that could teach, but still I believe a teacher, the physical presence of a teacher, is still important in the teaching and learning.
Yes, that is very, very true. Even if you come in and say, we're coming up with new methods of teaching and learning. I remember when at UMU, when the academic staff began to embrace technology, it was through a project called TESIA. And specifically TESIA was looking at transformative teaching and learning, basically rethinking or re-engineering the teaching methods, yeah, and processes. And when you look at it, when you look at the project as a whole, it was really to try and see how do we enhance the teaching process. That when we bring out a student, we really bring out somebody who can truly support the industries that are currently existing in Uganda's economy. So what does that essentially mean? You see the technology itself is simply coming to enhance. It's not taking over. You even see that we're talking about new methods of teaching, but not taking away the teacher per se. Just rethinking new methods, bringing in some new ideas to change the thinking and the thinking process of both the teacher and the student. But you don't take away the two actors. The two actors essentially remain the same. But what has been emphasized is that technology can't be taken away from the equation. So we have to think about it as teachers. We have to think about it, integrating it with our teaching and learning process. So with that, we've come to the end of our lecture. I encourage you to go online and go to Moodle and check out some of the content that I've put. I've not yet uploaded the video because I've not yet got the link from ICT, the first video we had, but I'm also going to send this one to ICT and then link them as soon as possible onto Moodle. We have any comment before we close?
We want to see you.
Physically?
No, put your video.
Okay, that's for a
Anyway, are you not here?
No.
This is me.
Oh,
Waving.
okay.
The room is a bit dark. We are deep in the village. Fort Portal, we depend 100% on solar. So here we don't have running water, we don't have electricity.
Fort Portal, the beautiful city.
God.
Yeah, I say Fort Portal because I don't want you to get lost, but I'm not in Fort Portal. I'm actually deep in the village, in Kienjojo.
Hey.
Yeah.
I thought you were in my Fort Portal there.
Village mate.
I'm deep in the village.
Okay, doctor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you too. Thank you so much. And we shall meet again next on Tuesday.
Okay.